Excellent. All the cards are in play to get my brother to finally watch Summertime Rendering, and all it took is Misaki Kuno getting a character voicing in the show. So it's all but confirmed at this point. Just like with 86, he didn't want to watch 86, and then, yes, the voice of Tama jumps in there, and suddenly he watches it. So it's good. We're good. I didn't notice her before. Honestly, we have several points in which she does talk, and I just completely missed it. I think it's probably because most of the other times we heard her talk, it wasn't as juvenile as this particular point, and technically I think those cases, her voice was slightly altered with some sort of effect, but anyways, episode 12 of Summertime Rendering went super hard, and it was great. Just another reset point, and so everything kind of went downhill very quickly. We got quite a few reveals, and again, I'm getting one of those feelings right now where I'm like, we're only like not even halfway through this series, and we've revealed pretty much most everything about the bad guy. Now, granted, we can still get into the origins of that whole situation. And again, we still have the question that I had last episode, which is, what are these shadows? Like, what is these other shadows? What do they copy? What are we looking at here? Are these demons? Are these aliens? Or what? But yes, this episode was a lot to do with the Hishigata family, really kind of revealing everything laid out by that family. Why they're doing it was definitely interesting. You're pretty much opening everything up with Tokiko laying everything out as Heine is sitting there just absorbing blood, and then eventually they bring in a bunch of corpses for them to eat. And we got two big reveals of why Tokiko is doing what she's doing. In the first hand, it seems as if Heine had made some sort of promise to their father that Heine would save their mother. That the mother of the Hishigata family, Tokiko's mother and So's mother, is actually a shadow copy. That she's not the real mother. Tokiko says that their father went to Heine and made a deal that she would save their mother in return to providing her meals. But not only that, but because, again, So having this sense of justice, their father placed upon her the responsibility continuing it on. And apparently one of the agreements that she made with Heine was that they would spare Mio, which at this point, I like how the Shadow's like, doesn't matter no more. You're all gone tomorrow. I'm not going to keep that promise. And yeah, unfortunately, takes out Mio. Mio gets like the short end of the stick because she's not really involved at all. Like everybody else, well, like technically anybody they really kill is not involved, but Mio's always like this side character that doesn't get really involved, and then she just shows up at the very end of each reset and dies. It's just kind of unfortunate in that regard. But yeah, showing Heine take up the appearance of Shiori, it does look as if this entire thing, like it all started with Heine. Confirming what I was saying last episode, that Shiori was a copy that was created by Heine and that she has been puppeteering everything. That whole flashback was because that was technically Heine. And we also get a confirmation in this episode that Heine is not necessarily the name of this being. This is actually Hiroko. And Heine is actually the first person that Hiroko had actually copied, which was really interesting this entire episode because you really get to see like this very juvenile character. Like Heine is like super juvenile. And from this point on, I'm probably going to just call her Heine because I really hate saying Hiroko. Apparently, for some reason, I keep messing it up. But it's really funny seeing Heine being very juvenile because technically Heine was this child. And so it does kind of have this god, this spirit that is sort of being very juvenile about things. They took my food, whining about things, and then this big shadow, this weird creature, which I'm trying to figure out at this point is what is this creature, because it does seem to talk down to Heine, despite the fact that I would assume that he is one of Heine's children. He does speak down. He kind of keeps her in check. And I'm wondering if that's one of those things where, is there an equality there between these two beings? Or is this actually one of spawns of Hiroko, but he knows that Hiroko is being conflicted by Heine's memories and childlike behavior, so he's trying to keep her in check. He's trying to kind of say, no, look, you have to calm down. No, you don't need to do this right now. Shinpei has this power. We need to not kill him. You were going to kill him, weren't you? It seems like he's almost keeping her in check because, again, I think it's because he knows that Heine's childlike behavior is in Hiroko right now. In this scene, we also confirm my speculations that it seems like the Hishigata family is taking people that pass away on this island to Hiroko in order for Hiroko to consume them. And that, yes, even though they're saying they're cremating everything, they're actually just producing doubles of bones and stuff to give to the family members that lost their loved one. It was kind of annoying because this is one of those moments where I'm really conflicted by Tokiko. Like, Tokiko does give off that sense that she doesn't really care. And obviously So is berating her like, how could you be okay with this? How could you be okay with them taking Shiori? How could you be okay with them taking Ushio? And she's like, well, Ushio was kind of a thing I wasn't expecting. We weren't expecting that because she got involved. Her and her shadow got involved, which is like, then you're okay with Ushio because you knew about the shadow. But it's like one of those things where they got involved and they died. And he's like, how are you okay with this? And she's just literally saying, it's all for Mother. Like, you wouldn't take on this responsibility, so now I have to take it on. It's all to save Mother. If Heine dies, then so does Mother. Really putting her mother before anybody else, which is, again, I can't really sympathize with that. But again, it goes back to the whole statement of, I dirty my hands for no reason. Because technically at that point, in that reset, that was the point that she realized it was all for nothing. Now in this reset, she figured it out right here. This thing basically told her, tomorrow you're all gone anyways. And that's when it kind of breaks her. But yeah, So goes down, protecting Tokiko. Tokiko goes down, and it's all thanks to this big shadow that, again, really curious as to what this thing is a form of. They have Mio as a hostage, and that's when they bring in the food, which is Ushio's body and this detective. This is when Shinpei and Ushio jump into action, and it was quite obvious at this point that was going to happen because I figured Ushio would want to save this body of something that she cares about, but also to recuperate her body by taking another image. But this is interesting because Ushio does take down this nurse, which does seem to surprise Heine, as if this thing was a very powerful version of a shadow. She admits, I thought that you were inferior, but in fact, you're actually really strong. So instead of getting rid of you, I'm just going to rewrite you. I'm going to fix you. Which she does eventually overcome, which does open up a big can of worms as to, again, what is Ushio. She seems to even surprise this thing that you would assume is its creator. You would assume that Hiroko created Ushio, the Shadow Ushio. But then we always question, why is Ushio always working outside of their bounds? They say that she is a defective, which kind of makes you believe that, yes, Hiroko made Ushio. Saying that she's defective would claim that it is supposed to be doing something and it's not. But yet Ushio, in this final moment, late into this whole fight, she does start to revert and start consuming Heine. And even to this later part, they do understand the idea that Ushio will go back with Shinpei. Because Heine herself says, kill her, or if you want to, kill me. Like, she at that point is accepting, just take out one of us, because we can't let her go back. They know Shinpei is going to go back, and they know that Ushio has the ability to go back with him. Which, again, to my whole point earlier about them revealing everything, at this point, it's like one of those things of, yes, I guess we do have tons of things that still need to be revealed. What is Ushio? But I think to that point, another thing that was brought up during this episode by this big shadow that was taking care of Heine, it does claim that Shinpei has this eye. Heine tries to take the eye, but she claims that she's not able to take the eye. Like, the eye disappears and goes back to Shinpei. And the way that it's described is that it's like a chicken and the egg situation. Like, where does it come first? Like, I can't take it from you because in the presence, it's still yours. Like, it's kind of one of those things where we're starting to get in some really mind-bending time stuff here. In laying out that there's multiple realities, that he's observing multiple parallel worlds right now. So even if they do take the eye here, he still has the presence that it's still his. Like, in time, in the future, he still has it over here or something. It's very weird. And I hope that it doesn't start really breaking the show up, because again, to my point earlier, that Chris would be drawn to watch the show, that might be a thing that's going to really ruin it for him. So far, they've been really good with the time. And opening up parallel worlds is obviously a very simple way of avoiding any time of time situation. But this other shadow does mention that Shinpei has not mastered that control. He says it's only accessible when you lose your sense of self, when you die, which is why they have to keep him alive, which does explain the idea that it only triggers when he dies. He's lost his sense of self, which makes me believe that eventually, yes, at some point, he could, probably at the very end, he could master his ability to like give up himself. We keep seeing whenever he thinks on things, he separates himself from himself. Like, you see his subconscious draw back. And I think that's something that's going to come into play later when he will be able to draw himself away from himself, get rid of his sense of self, and thus be able to control from a distance. He says you're observing multiple parallel worlds. Could it be that whenever we see this image of Shinpei pulled away from himself, is that him observing a multiple parallel world? And can that be the key to him controlling that? Yeah, Hizuru shows up with Tetsu. They completely fail to take down Shinpei. Yeah, that went rough. They're both gone. I kind of knew the moment that she showed up, I'm like, this thing's going to protect Shinpei. There's no way that she's going to get that shot off. But that doesn't save anything because apparently Shinpei, it is one of those question marks of why they went out of their way to show this medicine cabinet with this old medicine that was very poisonous. Oh yeah, because Shinpei took it with him and used it on himself. But that's his way of being able to go back in time, which again, that's the point in which Ushio starts corroding back. But it's interesting at this point because Heine goes crazy seeing that the corrosion is coming back. And like I said, she claims to kill one of them, two of them. Because again, she doesn't want Ushio to go back with them. Which at this point, they do point out, is Ushio the egg? What the hell is an egg? What is the egg? That's the big question mark. What is the egg? I don't know if that's a reference to what Hiroko is in Legend or what, but I'm not going to look into that because I don't want to spoil myself what exactly an egg can be tied in with that whole story. Maybe it's something that she birthed. The egg is some sort of child of Hiroko. That'll be the big question mark. Again, my mentality is still stuck on the idea of what is, I guess, the bloodline of Ushio. I was really thinking that they were going to have something special about Mio, and that's why they drew her in, but that just turned out to be that they wanted her as a hostage to draw Ushio in. He knew that he could use Mio to force Ushio to submit. But yeah, Shinpei dying, that triggers his ability. He's able to grab Ushio, pull her with him, and they pop in front of Hizuru at the meeting with them and Nezu, and she's like, "Are you time traveler?" "Yes." And then there's Ushio with them. So that changed things quite a bit. It, again, really kind of, I guess it solidifies this idea that Ushio is with Shinpei. The two of them are together. Technically, with him dying at the festival, they were separate from each other. So when he died, she was able to come with him, but she ended up on the beach somewhere. Whereas this time, it seems like he grabbed a hold of her, was able to bring her physically with him to the moment that he's with Hizuru, which is very interesting. Again, it kind of insinuates this idea that she's somehow kind of tied in with Shinpei physically. And again, I think that's a lot to do with the eye, but again, the eye is supposed to be Heine's. So yeah, a lot of the more I talk about this episode, the more I'm like, I thought we've revealed so much stuff and that we don't have much left, and yet I'm starting to think of so many things that we really need to get into still. Again, Ryunosuke stealing the eye, fleeing, where's the body? Where'd the eye go? How did Shinpei get it? How he's outside of this realm of dimensions. Who is Ushio? What is the egg? There's so many questions left to answer. So really fantastic episode. I keep loving this show and its ability to answer so many questions yet create so many more. I'd be curious to know if the eye itself is really Heine's. They kind of point out the idea that this eye is a way of overlooking the flow of time from a higher dimension. Is that the dimension that Hiroko has fallen from? It's obvious that he's not doing well. Hiroko is doing terrible, unable to walk, trying to regain their energy, again, to this whole point of this festival. But it'll be interesting to see where that plays out too. But anyways, I'm done. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Subscribe if you've not already. Share this video if you can. Support us on Patreon or through our tips link in the description below. We also have a super thanks button down there. I definitely appreciate everybody that supports us, and y'all take care.